feel like I should say 3 words too, like you all did. My 3 words are, I'm excited to be here, first of all. I am tired. I got up at 2:30 this morning because I just returned from France and I was on French time, and I got up and started working, and so I feel like it's at the end of the day, even though I got a lot accomplished this morning. But I'm a morning person, so I am feeling like a little bit tired. And then I am curious about, and most likely about, or most particularly about your feedback on the adventure and networking and how that goes hand in hand, and especially on the way you look at your networking and job search and can look at that as an adventure. So adventure is very important to me. My 3 top values are, I would say, adventure, developing others. I joined the military. I enlisted for the first Persian Gulf War a long, long time ago. But that was my sense of adventure in serving my country. It had, we went to war. I was like, I'm going to go. And then I discovered my passion for mentoring other soldiers. I had a little bit more experience than many of the folks that I was in my platoon. So I got very involved in that, and then had a career in training and development. So adventure, developing others, and then I would say autonomy is probably very important, the ability to do one's own thing. So my job today, it's more of a gig economy type role where I'm always networking to find new clients, to find new organizations and partnerships. And as a career coach, so I do training facilitation. I am a career transition coach, and also I do some consulting in organization development and human capital and training. And the most, I'm very, very passionate about developing others and about this journey. And, that kind of started when I was employed most recently full-time by Booz Allen. I started working with people within the firm on internal career development, and then on the side through the Association for Talent Development to work with individuals on their own career development. And now I'm able to do that, which is really great. So I'm happy to be here. I have some handouts, if you can pass these out, please. And do the clicker. So we did introductions. I didn't know that we were going to each go around the room and do introductions. I had put together some questions for you all to think about, so I'm just going to give them to you now and ask you to kind of keep them in the back of your mind, because we will address these things. So one of them is, what comes to mind when you think of networking? I get all kinds of reactions to that, and we'll discuss that in a little bit, especially since you are involved in the job search. Many of you are networking, so we'll discuss that a little bit more. And then your job search or networking goals. So your goals obviously are going to provide direction, and kind of getting clarity around those goals and around your next steps is something we're going to discuss further. So you can start to keep that in your mind. And then I had a question about your most recent adventure. So I have clients, adventure means different things to different people. I do think it is about getting out of your comfort zone. I'm also a ropes course or challenge course facilitator at George Mason University at their campus out in Manassas. So I work with teams and individuals, who are doing different challenges, some of them 50 feet in the air, and it's definitely outside of their comfort zones, and they really, really maximize learning from it. But then some of my clients, it's like driving around the block or taking a new route home from work is their adventure. So, and that's fine with them. That's awesome. They really want to do that, and we look at what did you learn, So it's all sorts of things to all kinds of people, and that's why I'm curious about what your reactions are as you go through this. So we're ready to do my introduction. Thank you, Jorge. And we did our objectives. So I put together all of these cliches or phrases, like life is an adventure. You've heard these. Life is a journey, not a destination. And when I was thinking about them, like networking, the thing is that networking is really, really a critical life skill for any time during your life. I work with people who are transitioning from the foreign service, so people who have lived their life overseas and are now transitioning to they're retiring. Some of them many don't even want to work, but we stress the importance of networking as, to find friends, to find volunteer interests. And so it is primarily focused here on the job search and with many of my clients in the job search, but it's also a key skill for life, building relationships. And along the journey, of course, you'll meet interesting people. And you'll likely, or you all have encountered forks in the road, though many of you mentioned what you're looking for at the next step, which is a fork. And, your goals, like thinking about your goals and your network is really going to help you provide direction. So Greg and I were chatting before the session about like even just having a conversation, that what conversation can really change your life, and you don't know what will occur when I chat with Karen, right? Like if we're outside chatting, like who knows what I'm going to learn about you or about Matt, and like what you are going to share with them and where that could lead. So one conversation can change your life, but being prepared helps a lot. So, have any of you ever like had luck where you fell into an opportunity maybe through a random conversation? I see people nodding their heads. Do you have an example of that, Maureen, that you're willing to share?
Yeah, it happened to be my best customer.
Oh, okay.
And just in conversation, at the time I was in sales, and he was like, "You make me buy so much," and I was like, "Darn." Hurry up, put it in the bag. And he said, I want you to come and observe my business and give me your input. And of course I accepted the challenge, but I didn't think I had the qualities or the skill set for that. And then through just that extension, I realized that I can observe, I can give feedback, I can find, I can make an impact.
So you're able to find the skills and wow.
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting. Somebody saw something in me that I didn't know I had. And I had never had that experience.
Wow. And then you, I'm going to say, probably got out of your comfort zone to rise to that occasion.
It was very uncomfortable because you have to introduce yourself to others. They don't know what you're doing there.
Yeah.
So they feel defensive. So you're not seeing the best out of people. And then you can't become defensive back because then they don't see the best of you. So and I'm more of an introvert. I've just practiced enough to be more comfortable as an extrovert.
Okay, excellent. Thanks for sharing that example. And I'm also seeing that, so you learned in the process and, discovered things that you could do that you didn't know you could do. And it was through a conversation.
A conversation.
Yeah. Okay. So so these conversations are really, really important to have them. We want to be prepared to have them, and that's what we're going to discuss today, along with our goals, so that when they happen or when we have an opportunity, we know what we want, we know what we have to offer, and in a little bit more detail. Doesn't mean that it can't go off into something completely new, and that's where you find the new fork in the road, and decide to go down that path. So thank you. And I want to say something about introverts too and networking, just because you brought that up. It's really, really interesting. How many of you would say, if you don't mind sharing, if you're an introvert? Okay, so introverts I hear often from introverts that networking is really hard for me. So I'm also going to share I'm an extrovert, and networking can be really, really challenging for me because when I get out of my comfort zone, it's like diarrhea of the mouth. I mean, excuse me for using that term, but I tend to talk a lot, and something, a lot of it is like random. And so I really need to be careful to step back and focus, so that if it is a challenge, how many, I guess the others of you are extroverts, or maybe you're somewhere in the middle on that scale. But I think introverts, it's challenging to get out, but the advantage you have, I think, is that often introverts can be better listeners, and they can focus more on the situation at hand, rather than like just having their mind everywhere, bouncing around, like seeing what else is going on. So there are advantages and disadvantages to both, But I think, yeah, it's definitely, like, don't feel that being an introvert is, you know, is a hindrance, because it is. I think in terms of preparation, to prepare to go out and prepare and take care of yourself after you network and make sure that you have that alone time to get your energy back. So, assessing your past is the first on this journey of life. Like, you've all come this far. Many of us are at a turning point in our careers. And one of the first things, one of the most important things to do is, in terms of moving forward, is to kind of assess where you've been and use that to see where you want to go. So oftentimes on the month-long program that I do for the Department of State, we spend the first week on self-reflection. They do the Myers-Briggs, they think about how they feel about their transition. What Greg said, and you all sharing your feelings for being here today, is exactly spot on, and something that you want to do, you know, to check in. Because, you know, Aaron, you said that, you know, to be anxious or whatever, but the fact that you've named that is almost like it's losing its power on you, because you're putting it out there, hey, I'm anxious today, and rather than trying to avoid it or hide it. Does that make sense? So I spend a lot of time coaching people on this too, and like really self-reflecting and seeing where you are. And, you know, I don't know in the 40+ program if, you know, do they do self-reflection as well as a part of a piece of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
We do. Yeah.
Yeah.
We do.
So if you are at that stage, just, you know, you may want to take a step and just acknowledge that and you know, be with it, and then maybe, you know, maybe start thinking next week or whatever, or some other time, but that's important. For now, however, so where are you in your journey today in terms of looking, and what are your longer term career goals? I heard some of this during the introductions, so just take a few minutes and think. I want to give you the opportunity to take some notes, to have this handout as something you can use going forward. If not, you know, just think about it a little bit more. Career goals. I like to think at least 3 to 5 years out, if you can visualize, because the next step, you want that to be in alignment with your future goals. And that's something that I struggle with. It's like thinking 10 years out or 3 years out or 5 years out, because I get so focused on today and what's going on right now in terms of my career or my next move. But really to align it with your bigger goals, if you have an idea of what those are, is critical. What are your key strengths, competencies, and skills that you want to focus on moving forward? So in terms of job search, it's an opportunity for you to focus on the things that you like to do and go after those. I understand that some people need to get a job right away, and that situation is a little bit different. Like if you need the income, you want to get the income and get a good, you know, something that's going to provide that. So I would say once you have that, then the next step is to, again, focus on, as you think back, what were the skills, things that you did that you really liked, versus things that you didn't like so much. Every job has them. So for me, I don't like detail-oriented. I'm not very detail-oriented. It's not one of my strengths. And even though I was in the military, I often worked with a team and had other people who could assist me. So when I started my own business, I realized like I really don't like that, and I'm not good at it, and I don't want to focus on it as much. So the answer for me is to hire, or I have to collaborate with others, because I'm not happy doing it myself. So your job search is an opportunity for you to think, like, what do I really like? Do I really like project management? Do I really like, you know, what aspects do I really like? And, you know, kind of focus in on that area to move forward. What are your aspirations as well? If you want to do something completely different or be in a different role, think about that in terms of, you know, what you have in the past and where you want to go. Moving forward, see some of you are still writing. I want to ask, does anybody want to volunteer to share what their longer term goals look like? If not, that's good, but yes, thank you.
Could say real generally,
Okay.
longer term, you know, something that, you know, gives meaning, adds value, something that makes me smile, something that I want to relate to others, something that I get up in the morning and want to do.
Yeah.
And so those are the general shape of things longer term, and also something that I could keep doing for many years on my own flexibility or schedule.
Okay.
You know, so that aspect to it too. So those kind of general shape of things, but
Right.
not precise.
Okay, that's awesome. So you know that you want to be like really inspired to do it and that it provides the flexibility. So that's awesome. You can start planning that way, you know, that route at this point, or keeping those things in mind. Thank you. Anybody else want to share long term? I think that's one of the challenges again.
I don't know.
Do you want to share?
Okay, it's something that
Okay.
stay thinking back.
Okay.
My first draft, we can say. Well, since already have the education as a project management, no, for the
Mhm.
future, no. I would like to focus more on what is leadership and organization. Why? Because you can know, or maybe, or I know the technical part, how to do project, how to evaluate and execute. But when you work with people, you don't want because you are the boss, president to do things. I feel like they do things because they believe in what I am doing. So I would like to focus in me.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, that's great. Thank you to those of you who are saying this out loud. I know it's hard to speak to a group sometimes, but I think the act of writing it first of all, and rather than keeping it in your head, and then furthermore the act of stating it, it's going to help you make it more real and tangible, and you're able to get feedback from others on it and further refine it, which can be very helpful. Thank you. And does anyone want to share briefly any key strengths or competencies? Like, what do you do now that you love, that you want to go forward with, or want to develop? I'm looking at Bob. Or Rob, I'm sorry. But you don't have to share, just...
Those are all different questions.
Okay.
I hope we'll go forward with. That's I think that well, one of the goals that I'm looking for is to work probably in a team that is going to be able to produce something where you can actually see what the results are. So what I mean is, as opposed to you're just sort of feeding a process that's sort of running.
Okay.
Okay, but instead where you're scoping out an actual goal with an endpoint.
Yeah, okay.
Right? Okay. So I think that I think maybe some skills that I want to focus on then is more like, I guess we would say, call them project management skills and things like that, which I've done before, but not in a but project management in a creative context.
Okay.
Right. So not
Yeah.
in a process context. I don't know if that made any sense or not.
That makes perfect sense.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great way to explore. And again, I'm thinking of like what does that mean? What is a creative, finding examples, gathering info?
It is, yeah, and you know, finding an impactful way to make a product. I mean, I'm talking about like a storytelling product for me.
Okay.
But that's I think what I'm looking at.
Great. Thank you. That sounds exciting. So we're going to get back to this why. Oh yes, Aaron.
Sure, so I just wanted to, we kind of skipped over that first question.
Okay,
I was
Ed.
wondering if you could maybe address that a little bit, because that, especially since that's the title of your talk, and that was really, when I wrote this down, I realized is what's contributing to, you remember when I expressed my feelings of being frustrated especially, and also anxious. So what I wrote is that the way I've been feeling lately, I've been doing this a long time, it feels that I'm kind of coming full circle, like I'm back at the beginning, or even more so like I'm at the bottom of a roller coaster, which I don't like to ride, so I just can't imagine what that's like, where So I've been doing things. Sometimes I feel a little bit better. I'm up, then I'm back down. But I feel like I'm back at the same place. So
Okay.
that's discouraging me to embark further on this journey. Because like, okay, well, I'll do all this work and I'm just back at square one. So how do how would you respond to that impression, I guess? And how do you kind of redefine this journey so that you're actually able to recognize perhaps the progress if you're making any? So.
Yes, that's an excellent question. I'm sorry that I skipped the first question. For some reason in my mind, I was thinking that we had kind of covered it in introductions, and we did not. So thank you, Erin, for that. And that is an excellent example. So for you, like life's up and downs, let's think about it. Think of a metaphor of a roller coaster. That's a great one, where you're up and you're down and you're up and you're down. And if you don't like roller coasters, that gets tiring. But I'm going to say for the most...
At the end, you're back at the place you started.
Yes,
so,
I know. So you want to get on a new... Yeah, okay, right. You want to get on a new coaster maybe, or a new river or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so first of all, you are half of the battle is the acknowledgement and realization that that this is occurring and that you're at the bottom. So again, acknowledging it is because many people could get frustrated. Clients I work with get frustrated, but they don't recognize that yet. So the acknowledgement is one thing. Do you keep a journal? Or any kind of, these are some suggestions that I'm going to throw out that I work with my individual clients. So you want to learn from the experience. So each time you come up and each time you go down, look back at that. I mean, it could be every day. It could be after every interview. To sit back, take a step back, acknowledge your feelings. Like maybe you don't think that it went as well, and like I know I beat myself up if I think something didn't go as well, and then like just to do that, but then think, well, what is the learning? Because on those down points is when you're learning. There's a lot more learning there than there is on the high points. So looking back, reflecting, what am I learning? What did I learn from the conversation today? I recommend writing it down, which is that habit that I've struggled to get into because I'm not good at journaling, but it is a really critical skill. Like every leader that, great leader journals, they meditate. There are certain things that many people do. So acknowledging it, writing it down if possible, even 1 or 2 words, because I want you to have a record of that. So, a month long up and down or a year long up and down, but writing the learning. And then there's also the issue of like what went well and gratitude and appreciation. So that seems to me, I'm a very like doing person. Like, and this stuff to me, this coaching stuff is, I went through coaching and I'm a certified coach. It seemed like all this hokey pokey, touchy feely stuff to me initially, but it worked. So appreciating, so there's 2 points, like the learning, always look back, learn. Know that when you're in adversity, that's also making you stronger, and that because of that learning, but you need to learn from it and to take that step. Because many, many times if we don't, and that's where the acknowledgement comes in, then you just go on and on and on, and you're not in control. You want to be in control. Learning and then acknowledging, well, what went well out of the learning? Maybe, what did I learn? Well, I had a great conversation with Matt today. Even though the interview didn't go well, I talked with Matt about some other subject, and maybe I learned something new and maybe made an important connection. So then you can take that moving forward. But the recognition of the pattern, just that, okay.
I'll add to it. One of the other things I went through. I've been through what you're going through, and I noticed to cheat ahead. I noticed your AIRS, advice, information, referrals, and support.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of the different interviews that you can do with people. And I actually had sort of an advice interview with a friend of mine, a guy that I worked with about 20 years ago, and we talked about how everything in the world tells you is when you're unemployed that your full-time job just became searching for a job. And the reality is I'm a pretty intense guy. There's very little that I don't do with passion and intent. And when I fail at that and I'm not able to completely focus, I start to feel frustrated and just I just want to shake my fist at the world and everything. And I sat and I talked with my buddy, and we talked it over, and he said, you know what? He went, I'm pretty much the same way. So you know what I did? I job searched from Tuesday to Thursday, and I took Monday and Fridays off. And I had long weekends. He was fortunate, he was married, and and I'm not, he gave himself permission to take that break, because I was in that spot where, I was in the 40+ class. I'm going to school to continue my education. I'm trying to find a job. I have a girlfriend that I love dearly, and I have all of these things, and I want to be able to do all of them, right? And to suddenly be able to just give myself permission to be able to say, today, all I can do is calculus. The job search has got to wait till tomorrow, and then focus on the job search, and put together that plan. And then I discovered the ability to start to put together a plan, so that in those moments when you start to feel that really frustrated, you go back and look at your plan and go, wait a minute, I've accomplished this, yesterday, and this the next day, and this the next day. Even if all it was one thing, she spent an hour on it, 2 hours, she can spend 8 hours. It's impossible to do. You got to just celebrate those things and feel good about them.
Yes.
You're here today,
Yeah.
and you need to feel good about that.
Yeah.
You got a room full of people here that'll hold you up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
So I just wanted to add one more thing. I guess sometimes when we're going through this roller coaster, we forget to take care of ourselves.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
like what you were saying, is sometimes you can't be like a job start for 24/7.
No.
You have to give yourself a break, take exercise, do some yoga, just like take a little bit of break and breathe.
Yeah.
Because sometimes if you don't, I think sometimes you could end up, get up discouraged because you're
Right.
just so much focused in this
Mhm.
and you're not taking care of yourself.
Yes, exactly. Like that's the thing too, and the recognition. I'm at the bottom. What do I need to do? Or I'm at the top and I'm really busy.
And sometimes
You know.
getting your schedule together, I think that's what I used to be a career
Uh-huh.
consultant. Putting your schedule together a day,
Yeah.
just like what he stated, it's not sometimes a good thing to be doing job search every day.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. You
Yeah.
need to take a break. You need to.
Yeah.
Also to get the support, so the
Yeah.
support of having this group of being in the same
Oh,
boat
yeah.
together, or sharing these challenges with
Yeah.
one another, and and learning from one another too,
Yes.
rather than
Definitely.
just the act of sharing and learning. So thank you, Alex. Yes, Gloria.
I like what you just shared on that your friend recommended that you had days off from the job search, because since I am not meeting my own expectations and that causes frustrations, I had to evaluate the same, and I do not do job search Saturday and Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
I just do not. do
Yeah.
it, because I found that I was getting down, and I also avoided things that made me more anxious. Like, for example, if you have a lot of people asking you questions, how is it going? What have you done? Have you heard?
Mhm.
Right?
Yes.
You have to let them know. Listen, I love it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love it that you're checking in with me. But can we just give me a little space, because it's not moving as fast as my expectations. And then they understand,
Yeah.
right? My coworkers would reach out.
Mm-hmm.
That put pressure,
Yeah, right. They're meaningful. It sounds like they're
because my company closed. So we were all 500 plus, right?
Wow.
So my,
500 plus?
Yes. And 100 plus people were impacted by it.
Yeah.
And the owners felt so responsible. They were reaching out. That, I just wanted to go home, crawl in bed. I was drained.
Yeah.
Right? So put some boundaries, and then I like how you said identify patterns.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because when you're on a low, there may be a pattern
Yes.
that you can identify and then switch it.
Right. So noticing, and then in the pattern.
In the pattern, so I'm like, okay, I have been targeting the companies that I wanted the most because
Right.
it actually fulfilled my little checklist.
Yeah.
But now I need to diversify my list. I
Right.
need to approach, right? So I have to broaden my options, not only of the companies I'm targeting, but also in positions that I am
Yeah.
targeting.
Right.
Because in the end, we want to funnel something so that we can then continue our 3-year, 5-year plan.
Right.
So we need that income so that we can
Yeah.
continue working.
Yeah, exactly, and then
Other
keeping that
priorities.
plan in mind, but also the immediate and, yeah.
So I have to identify patterns. I'm not gonna visit my coworkers every week because
Right.
it's freaking, I get heart palpitations, I wanna sleep.
Yeah, and I like that you said that you set the boundaries.
You gotta have that
Yeah,
self-awareness.
Alex, and then we're gonna move on,
Yeah,
yes.
that's one I was gonna say. And I think sometimes it helps us to get, like volunteering, right? I find that helpful because sometimes when you stay in the house or,
Right.
just like statistically, just networking, 80% we get jobs,
Yeah.
at least that's the research I've heard.
Mhm.
80% we're getting networking.
Right,
That's
right.
volunteering out there, just never know. A lot of people, I've had that opportunity.
Yeah.
While I was volunteering somewhere and then boom,
Mhm.
I got a
Yeah.
job, so.
And volunteering is also helping others, so
Yeah.
if you're at the bottom, then it's sometimes good to not focus. Like when we focus inwardly, think of an inward focus or an outward focus. Like we, as job seekers, often, like you're focusing inward. And even like in the interviews, like you're thinking of the job seekers as an interviewee, like you put a lot of pressure on you thinking, oh my God, I need this job, or, but versus like focusing outward, like how can I help? How can I bring my skills to help you, and then keeping that in mind so that it's a two-way street. So thank you. I'm going to move on and just say, why network? So we know this. Thank you. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but many jobs, especially for folks who are 40 plus. So my clients at the Department of State, or many of them are 65. Some of them have been forced out. Some of them because it's an up or out system. So not everyone's retiring and living off their pension and enjoying their grandchildren. And they often say to me, like, what about age discrimination? And I think the number one way to overcome that is networking. Because I look at them and I'm like, you don't even seem like how old they are, because they're energetic, they're like bringing their skills, but on paper, yeah, maybe you see all this experience as an employer and you're like, I can't afford to hire that person or whatever. So networking remains, the most important. And common networking turnoffs, I know you have this on that handout. I just want to raise your hand. Do any of these resonate with you? Yeah, okay. So I just want to kind of just touch on this and dispel the myths. So, selling oneself, picking one's rate, like all of these terms are just a favor bank, like they're just, they're turnoffs. And I'm going to move on. But, I think I'd like to think of networking in a positive way rather than using these. But many people say that they don't want to sell themselves, blah, blah, blah. And then the misconceptions, I don't need to network now. My good work speaks for itself. Networking should be something, as you know, that, that you do continuously. So you don't want to wait until you're in the job search mode, ideally moving forward. As you move forward on your journeys, consider like meeting people and building relationships, built on trust as something that you would do on a daily basis. Networking is a skill. And the more you practice, the better at it you can be. And absolutely not about manipulating and taking from others, or having the gift of gab, because that's all small talk. You want to build trust. You want to get to know the other person.
Gift of gab, you mean talking on and on?
Yeah, like talking on and on, or small talk, or, just talking nonsense, I would say.
What is working a room and favor bank on the turnoffs?
So those are just common terms. Like working a room would mean that you go with an agenda to get something. And I'm going to speak with Gloria, but if she doesn't have it, I'm going to move on to Tanya and then Alex. So I'm going to pick up people for what I want. It's and then favor bank would be, hey Dave, I'll do one favor. I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine, but only if you give me a favor in return. So we don't want that, because that's very transactional. It's ideally, like if in a long-term relationship, you want it to be more casual and more genuine. Does that help? Yes, Greg.
Business card exchange.
Why is that a turn-off?
So
White.
I was thinking business card exchange. What do you often do when you get business cards? Maybe as good networkers, you write them in your contacts?
They have our contact. If they
Uh-huh.
want to talk more or something else, they can contact us.
Yeah.
Saying I can contact the person.
Uh-huh. What do you think most people do with, what do you suppose most business cards ends up? In the trash, yeah, that's why,
So
so.
we shouldn't use them?
No, you can, absolutely want a business card and use it, but it's not just about, you want to share information about you and make a connection, not just, here, Gloria, take my card. Maybe it'll be inspiring to you. But, you know, she's like, who the hell is this at the end of the night? Yeah, you don't remember.
Okay, so in other words, you need to have a connection with somebody in
Yes.
order to truly give them that card.
Somebody you like.
Yes, yeah, exactly, yes.
Keep going.
Yep, yeah.
Business card exchange is like a meaningless gesture.
Yes, exactly. And I'm gonna, you know, maybe rephrase that. Yeah, if there's no connection, then, you know, you wanna know it, and like, I, you know, recommend, like, really, like, I'm not gonna exchange my card with Gloria unless, like, I have a reason to, because otherwise, I have a reason to stay connected. Because otherwise it will end up in the trash, you know, but if we have a reason, we talk about some advice maybe, or some follow-up that I'm gonna, you know, have with her, then I'm immediately going to put it into my contacts on my calendar, and, you know, then it might go in the trash, but then I have it, you know, I have it already planned. Yes.
One thing I found really helpful about networking, so I've set a goal to meet at least 2 people a week in person.
Uh-huh.
And it doesn't really matter like who that person is, because it's all practice, right? It's all like learning. So what I did after I took the class, and after it was over, I was feeling kind of like, you know, what now?
Mm-hmm.
And so I started reaching out to people, the facilitators, other people in my class, and just any kind of social interaction counts, and you feel good because it's like, I met, you know, 1 of 2 people that I'm supposed to meet this week, and, you know, you learn stuff. I mean, I met with a woman who was a facilitator at one of my classes, and, you know, even though I didn't come away with like 2 or 3 names of other people I could talk to, she was really supportive and inspiring, and said, you know, I had this job where I had an hour-and-a-half commute each way, and, you know, but I ended up meeting somebody on the bus who gave me, you know, contact for this temp job, and like 2 weeks into the temp job, the company wanted to hire her. She's been there for 3 years. So even if it's just getting hope or just some kind of momentum, any kind of momentum counts.
Yeah, I love that you're doing that, and because you're practicing it, it's always an opportunity, right, to get better at networking and to learn. I have an assessment that I do on how good is your networking, and one of the questions is like, do you talk to people like on a regular basis and make that effort? And you know, some of them, it's kind of like dating in the way that some of them are going to be contacted, like you follow up with, you know, where it's a match, and other times it's not. But also finding something of interest to you, because it sounds like you're learning a lot of interesting things about others. So a key aspect of networking is like active listening, or really being curious. Like, so many of you mentioned curious this morning when we kicked off the session, which is awesome, because like, think about, as you know, as children, like children, if you think about, like, be like a 4-year-old is a piece of advice I've heard, because they ask questions about everything. You know, what do you do, Tanya? Like, tell me more. Why do you do that? Like, just instead of being focused on their own agenda, or, you know, not interested. So what can I find about if I had a conversation with you of interest? If, you know, a professional. Okay, so there you go. So this is the point about establishing rapport. Is like, you know, or some kind of commonality helps. Maybe we can't find anything of interest, and that's good, as long as we're like open and curious, and we treat each other respectfully, and you know, maybe I find out more about what you're looking for, and I don't want to move on to that even receive thing. You know, maybe you find out more about me, and maybe we stay in touch, but you know, whatever. It's about like being open and curious versus I'm so focused on my agenda, I need a job, that, you know, and not like kind of exploring, and not. So which can happen, and that's perfectly understandable, that to be so focused, but it's kind of about getting out, really, like, you know, and just keeping in mind, keeping practicing networking on a and and every day, like brushing your teeth. Like,
All momentum is good.
Right.
It all counts.
yes, it is. And then momentum grows. It kind of
Yeah.
snowballs.
Yeah.
Networking is almost like like a giant snowball. I think of because when you start and then you add in contacts and getting referrals, and it gets bigger and bigger. And or it's another analogy is like overturning stones, but I think the snowball's better because your network grows. Anyway, so these are common misconceptions. Again, you should network. As a best practice, keep on networking. So what is networking? And what I want to just emphasize here is long-term, mutually beneficial relationships built on trust. So it can take years to build a relationship. It takes between 6 to 8 interactions to demonstrate trust and to get to know somebody. So I'm new to all of you, so it's my first interaction. Aaron, I would say for saying that you were frustrated and sharing is going to give me maybe a little more trust with you than that, because I saw you as honest when you said that, and willing to kind of step up and be vulnerable and share. So yeah, it takes time, and then it's also about all of these things. And then I want to get to this. Who's heard of the I can't say that word. Reciprocity principle. So this is true that when you give back to somebody wants to give you more. And what seems to happen for me is when I go out and network and I share information maybe or doing speaking here or there, then it's almost like somebody I give, but then somebody I receive something from somewhere else. It's like kind of the big universe of giving and receiving. Sometimes, or later on, maybe it's that the person Dave and I connect after 6 interactions. So I have a number of different coaching gigs and work that I've lined up. It took probably 1.5 years for me to line up most of them, to build trust and volunteer to help out with the program, and then become a paid speaker for part of it, and then to become a coach in this month-long program. Does anyone else have an example that they want to share? On the giving and healing. Yes.
Come on this way. I started just providing services because I can't just job search and get no thank yous.
Yeah.
So I started just asking people, I see that you're looking for a job search. You want any, I can help you. So now I'm assisting 3 young ladies from University of Maryland, recent graduates. Recent graduates, right? Highly skilled in their career. They couldn't find jobs, and they were so frustrated. And I said, I'll meet with you over coffee. And we went through the resume, we went through everything, and the young ladies were like, what can we do for you?
Okay.
And I was like, this is great, because now I have recent graduates. You can join my LinkedIn, right? Because I'm building a pool of talent, information technology, which is good for recruiting.
Yeah.
Right? And I didn't have a large base in the social media. And I said, I have some social media questions for you. And they have taught me certain things. Some of them for fun, and some of them for work.
Yeah.
But they were like, what can we do for you? And you feel good. You give it in.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. So keep that in mind, and then your turn. What do you have to give? I do want to do this exercise very quickly. So just one thing. There are some examples that you have in your handout. As you'll see, it could be like a movie recommendation. It could be listening to somebody talk about their job search and their frustrations.
Right.
Okay. So what I would love to do is hear one thing from whoever wants to share, one thing that you have to give and one thing that you want to get, because this is networking right here. So if I were to say one thing I have to give is help with LinkedIn. I'm very good with LinkedIn. I can help provide advice on people's profiles. One thing I want to get is I'm directionally challenged, and I went to the wrong building this morning and then figured it out. And I came here and then the doors were locked, so I thought I was in the wrong place, but it turned out to be the correct place. So if anyone knows a really good GPS or something, then I would appreciate it. So quickly, let's go around the room, or whoever wants to volunteer. How about let's do like a popcorn thing, if anyone wants to. Yes.
Mine are both.
Popcorn, like popping, like you can say that.
Mine are the same.
Okay.
I want to give support and feedback, and I want to get support and feedback.
Okay. Okay. And you want to, great, thanks.
Yeah, usually I network in some area or in some places where I will find professionals the same level or maybe higher, where I would like to give me some advice, maybe some tips, and also we share the experience I have in my professional life.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank
But
you.
usually, normally, I am not looking exactly what I will receive. I would prefer cultivate a friendship. The thing is that in a natural way,
Right.
things. It fall because it happened lately, actually. 3 months ago, I actually was a neighbor. I didn't know that she actually is working in the area I would like to also work. So we were talking, then we went out on other events, all pure social events. We met again by accident. Then we started being friends, and then she gave me some information, I gave other, then we decided, I travel, I brought for her sometimes I bake banana bread, orange bread. I said, I will bread for her too. So we started friendship while we have a professional exchange because only we talk about our offices.
Yeah.
And she brought me a wine, so my husband said, hey, you are drinking? I said, for us. But she said, take this wine for us. So we have some kind of really, it's a real friendship, but we exchange professional bodies.
Yeah. Okay. So what to give and what to get. This is about being prepared to be kind of spontaneous. I want to invite you to take this exercise home and spend some time thinking and making a list of what you have to give and what you want to get in terms of specific recommendations. And then have this, keep adding to it, keep a running list and review it before going out to events, or you can review it on a weekly basis. If you're networking on a daily basis, you want to just keep it in mind so that you're prepared to know, and to ask for what you want. If you're worried about, manipulating or taking advantage, the advice I would give is to give more, give often, give freely, and then you'll see, you'll start getting because people will want to reciprocate. And here are some examples. So you can share that. Keep your list. We'll skip that for now. So best practices. So I want to briefly discuss introductions. And I understand that you spent time or you're doing or can in the program on this 30-second introduction or elevator pitch and introducing yourself. So many people. Who has done this? Introduce yourself with your title and your company when you were employed. I used to do it all the time. I was with Booz Allen. It was it was a big company, and this position with Booz Allen, I'm so important or whatever. But the problem with that is I'm hiding behind the flag of the organization, and it's not about me. It's about them. It's many people in the Foreign Service, when they retire, I'm an ambassador or whatever. The ambassadors at least can say ambassador retired, but if you don't have that level, then, who are you without the organization? It's challenging for people to, if you're in between opportunities, when asked, it's so common in this town for people to say, what do you do, is the first thing that people ask. So in order to, not say your title, instead use a success story to introduce yourself. So starting with your title too, or I'm this or whatever. I'm a project manager. If I'm having a conversation with you, that kind of that doesn't inspire you to, you might say, oh, where do you work? I work at Booz Allen. Oh, okay. It's kind of like a flat conversation. I'm not finding much about you, or maybe sharing much more about me. It could be useful. But a better way to do it is to come up with these stories. So why success stories, or why use a story? And I'm talking about 2-sentence stories, 2 to 3 sentences. So stories provide this example of credibility, of your expertise, So it's demonstrating what you've done. They paint a picture, so I can envision, Dave, you doing what you do versus hearing your title. They give your contact something to say, I'm going to recommend Gloria and she is this, and I can it makes it much, much easier in our brains to repeat the story, and they make you a more enjoyable and fun conversationalist. So being curious feeds right into the stories, being curious about your new contact, being adventuresome, what do you want to learn about them? So here are some examples of, so what is this introduction, and I'm rushing because we have like 3 minutes. Tell you about Lisa. So Lisa designs, I don't know what her title is, but she designs office spaces around the world. She was to this major project. They're environmentally friendly. So that's giving me a lot of information about what she's passionate about. And also that she sounds competent because she just completed this major project. So she's teaching me what she does, or teaching trust through the introduction. Another example, I love planning big events. The more complex, the better, blah, 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 is also telling what you do. And this is another way to start it. Have you ever missed an important flight? I think we can all relate to that. So coming up with these things that are curious. Yeah, I missed a flight last week. So, I make business travel easy for my clients. I help you solve the problems. And when you take this worksheet home, this is very important too. Using the key strengths and things from earlier, spend some time drafting various examples of these success stories. I usually try to plan like 3 or 4, depending on the audience. So if I'm meeting with other coaches, it's something coaching related that can share my competence. Maybe they can refer clients to me and vice versa. If it's a training scenario, it's something related to that. I imagine, I don't have your name tags, Beth. So Beth, I imagine that yours are, probably more general, or you would have things for just meeting random people, like various ones, like somebody who's retiring. It could be, I recently retired from X company, and I'm looking forward to spending time with my grandchildren, versus like, I'm Bob, I'm just, I'm retired. So that's, a way to do the 30-second intro or elevator speech. Practice, practice saying it out loud, or practice with partners. And then, assessing kind of who is in your network now. And then keeping in mind like these alumni groups. So this is a suggestion, like sometimes we forget alumni groups, or like LinkedIn, expanding your network on social media is a great place to, you can meet anyone, millions of people on social media if that's a whole nother class. But, kind of assessing where do you want to go on your journey and who can provide, who can help you get there. So being more strategic. And then, taking some time. So take some time on your own time to write next steps too. And this could be something, Gloria, I'm just thinking about your example, like when you are at the bottom, of a dip, then, how am I going to get, who do I know? And start making a list of names, like you could come up with, hundreds of names. And, or like taking some kind of action step to move forward. And then trust, again, we covered this, but demonstrating trust as you build these relationships, things like meeting deadlines, being reliable, are going to teach others to trust you. And it is essential, of course, Greg and I were talking about that. I've had people like ask who I don't know, say, could you recommend me for this? And I'm like, no, I don't know you. That's putting my reputation on the line. Sorry. So teaching it and then following up is really, really important because this is a long-term journey. So finding a way to, not throw out the business cards, but to put them in your calendar to follow up. Thank you notes, or just brief, like, hey, I was thinking about, I found this article that I thought you might like, are great ways to keep in touch so that you can have a number of contacts. And then here are some recommendations, creating the, the list of your success stories for different skills, finding commonalities, and focusing on the long term. And then additional support. So this is like really critical. What you're all here, like this group, having a support group. You don't do it alone, like because there are others who you can share with and learn and to build networks, and you never know what will come from that. So finding accountability partners is also, does anybody use accountability partners here? Awesome. Okay, so some heads nodding. And that's it. So remember, you're the captain of your life's journey, so you're in charge of that roller coaster. You are, it's circumstances might are going to have you at the bottom, but one thing about the roller coaster, it's going to go up, and you can make a choice to get off or to change coasters. So thank you.